Thirza Voysey does horse medicine therapy and lives on an island just off of Vancouver Island, Canada. Perfect location for her farm, where she welcomes people to dive deeply into their own inner nature with the help of horses. But Thirza only started her new career at the age of 40. Thirza, tell us about your journey and how you got there.
Hi, yes, I'm thrilled to be here, and I love talking about this journey because it wasn't the typical one. I started out graduated high school, went to university, became a social worker for the government. I got the job even before my graduation of university. Went into that for 11 years as a social worker. And I remember in university, somebody told me, find something you love to do, and then you'll find people to pay to do it. And I just held that close because I didn't love my government job. And so I just kept feeling into my heart, and I had kids. And so I really felt like I had to keep it really safe for a long time. And then I just couldn't. I started to get sick. I had to go on some medical leaves. And finally, I just left that, and then did a few other things, got my yoga teacher training, did that for a while, had a raw chocolate business, did that for a while. And then I was really drawn to the horses actually I love horses, but through my daughter, who was going through some anxiety, and we were getting her talk therapy, and it just wasn't making the shift. We were also riding at the same time, and I would see a change in her. I would see her be up on her horse and be this powerful queen, and then I would see her at home at night being terrified. And so there was this change in her that I really wanted to explore. And I was already doing counseling work, so I then started to explore the horse medicine work, and of course was hooked. And then it was, my youngest son was going to kindergarten, so it was time for me to get back into the working world, and we'd sold the chocolate business. And so we bought a farm, got some horses, and started to work. The rest is history.
Wow. So from social worker to chocolate factory, and then to horse farm, and now it's called soul farm. Is that correct? You have a soul farm. This is a beautiful word. And tell me, how you were talking about talk therapy when you were talking about your daughter. What is talk therapy?
So what I was referring to is therapy in an office setting, as opposed to work or counseling or just energy healing or something outside with animals. People do nature therapy, people do, forest bathing, those kinds of things where you're out in the world and having, and then combining that with the work as well.
So what is the main difference that you see in terms of successful results with the two therapies, like talk therapy and then the outdoor therapy, which is what you do?
Yeah, so I am in no way knocking that kind of work, because I think it's really important, and the office work. And I think there's a lot of tools that are given and a lot of things that are really helpful. It was just, I was watching her, and I was seeing that the thing was, she didn't want to she was resistant to using the tools. She felt helpless. She felt like she couldn't even use the tools. They weren't going to do anything. And so I was looking for a way that was naturally making her confident that we could then work with. And she's not really she's done a little bit of typical, the work that I do with my mentor she's done, which is actually how we got into it. But it was watching her be on the horse and watching how confident she was and how she could it was in her natural way. She could be part of the herd. She could move these 1,000-pound beings around, and it was so confident with it. And it was just magic to me. And I knew there was things happening at a level for her, at an energetic level, that was different than sitting in an office. So it was important.
Did you have to study in order to become an intuitive guide?
Yeah. So I still continue to do work with a mentor, and I did I think 5 years of an equine facilitated wellness program. And I do, like I say, continue to work with her a few times a year. She comes to the farm and we work together. And so that was really important because I knew horses, but I was not a horsewoman. So there was no, I was intuitive. I was an energy worker. I was an intuitive person. I wasn't confident with these 1,000-pound beings. I wasn't, and even my daughter would laugh at me and say, Mom, how come you're not confident? So we sort of did the switch, right? I was confident at home. She was scared. Then we got on the horse. She was confident. I was scared. So I had to increase my skills with the horses for sure, which has happened, especially now that I have my own.
How many horses do you have?
We had 3. We just had our old man pass away on New Year's Eve. So we're back to 2. Don't tell my husband. It'll probably be 3 again soon.
Okay. It will be our secret. So then tell me, because of course from social worker, of course there must be some elements of what you studied and what you worked, for many years that you felt close to and you felt like a calling for. Did you see some of those aspects of your previous job that you can now implement into your new work and line of work?
Yeah, of course. The social work was a lot of working with people and a lot of using my counseling skills and my background from schooling. And it was just a lot of seeing what families go through. I work specifically with children and adults with developmental differences and autism and their families. And so autism has always fascinated me, working with people. And I do that now here at the farm, have some clients that come. And again, because when you work in the energetic world, there's just these unexplainable things happening with people with autism that I think are really, really high vibrational and also really here to teach the people around them. And so it's really fascinating for me to get to see that from the horse perspective when I used to see it from kind of the medical clinical perspective.
How is the first encounter with the horse? How is a typical day of work with the family or the boy or the girl that come to seek your services and assistance?
Yeah, so it's often, I work with children and both children and adults, and it's very intuitive how the work goes. I don't usually have a plan. Sometimes I've done intuitive soul reading with the individual before they come to the farm. And so we've done kind of a soul level hello, and I get some information that way. And usually I'm guided as to what kind of things we will be doing with them when they come. But then other times, they just show up and we really just follow what the horses will lead us to. And I introduce them to the horses. I talk about safety. Sometimes I will put lead on the horse. Usually it's whichever horse comes to kind of say hello and be involved. Often the horses are they're standing, looking towards the gate before, half an hour before an individual will come. And they just kind of know that somebody's coming. And so one of them or a couple of them will come forward and we do some work. And then we just kind of follow it. And I intuitively will kind of translate what's going on from the horse. And then sometimes we'll do some exercises with the horse on lead. Sometimes we'll just do brushing. Sometimes, if it's a child with autism, I've had some children come and they don't want to have shoes. And so I have to be really careful, of course, of safety always is the number one. And so they will just kind of run around near the horse. And then, maybe they come close. And there's all these things that often with children, of course, they're having their own experience, right? They're having this experience that's beyond even what I need to manage other than safety and a little bit of help for the parent usually, right? A little bit of translation. So it's always different. What happens is always different.
Do you suggest a number of sessions, a minimum number of sessions, or how does it work?
Yeah, of course, it's energetic work. And so things are happening at a level that we can't even necessarily know when the person is here. And I used to be somebody who was very much like, I want a big show when I go see the horses. I want it to be a big aha. I want to come home feeling like these things changed and shifted. And the work can be like that, but it can also be really subtle and it can be really layered. And so I find that the more people come, the more people engage with the work and then go home and do their own work, like journaling or watching out for their dreams. Often my black mare will show up in people's dreams and do their own kind of soul development. Then that is the really the best way for transformation to happen.
That's fantastic. I was wondering, what kind of results can you see? Like, are there any tangible results that you can see from the interaction with the horses, or is it something subtle that you can feel energetically? How can you, let's say, track the progress of the therapy?
So I think the best person to use for that kind of answer is myself, because I'm the one that I see the most happening with. And I actually just finished writing a book, and it was all about my own anxiety and growing up with that. And then how I how I did give my power away when I was really young, because I was very sensitive, very intuitive. And then that getting back to the horses has really helped me to go through my energetic centers, because the horses work on the energy body, to go and strengthen my own self energetically. And it's been transformational. And there's so many times where I will say, there's no way I would have gotten to that without these horses, without these 1,000-pound beings calling me to it, and there's a lot of things that, like, an example is a client, I think she was 14, and she came and we were working on boundaries, which horses are wonderful boundary teachers, right? Because they're 1,000 pounds. And so she was working just on the simple leading exercise where we get you to, we teach you to lead energetically. So you lift your chest, you connect with your own soul, your own source, and you connect with the horse's heart. And then it's like you're joining, right? You're being one. And then you ask for the walk and the horse walks with you. And it's magic. It feels like magic when it happens. And what was happening was this girl would get really in her head, and she wasn't connecting. She wasn't working. And then she had to learn how to connect with her own energetic space, connect with the horse's energetic space. And then they moved as one, like a dance. And that was just magical. And I know that she took that out. I'm still in contact with her, and we have sessions online right now, but that she has taken that and continued into her life. And especially as a youth, right? To have those kinds of energetic connections to your boundaries and to who you are, it's really, really powerful.
How much would you say is, let's say, what counts for you? Is it the studying on books or the self-training? In percentage, what would you say has been the recipe to become who you have become in your job?
Mentorship.
Yeah.
Mentorship, and also following my intuitive leads, because I have a lot, because I'm not traditionally trained in horse personship. I really have to feel my way forward. What works for me, what doesn't. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm very passionate about this too. There's a lot of stuff in the horse world that doesn't work for me. It's not respectful of the horse. It doesn't feel good. And so I have to be in such strong integrity, right? And even to the point where we were doing riding with my mare, and she's had a lot of trauma in her life. She was a cart horse and all this, and had all this stuff on her. And she's really resistant to the riding, but she does it. She's safe and she does it. And so we were doing it. And then just after a while, I started to really sink in about that she doesn't want to do it. And I was like, I was doing the whole, well, you got to work, and okay, that's fine. But there's a place where she wasn't feeling healthy. She wasn't feeling strong and confident. And so I just had to stop everything, which is hard to do when that's your bread and butter. You're saying no. And all these kids, that was the biggest thing, was all these kids who were loving coming and loving riding her. And I just had to stop it for a while and go back to the healing of the horse, right? And we have to get her so she's not in a traumatized place when we're doing this work with her. And so, I think, but mentorship has been incredible. And I in my book, I thank my mentor so much, because I couldn't have had the courage. I don't think. She'll probably say, oh, yeah, you could have, but I don't think I would have had the courage to get one and then another horse, because it's different, right? When you're not, even my husband says, oh, well, when I met you, you weren't a horse person. Well, I was, but I didn't have any, and so you have to go through this expansion. And I think that's important for the job world, and really picking your career and following your heart, is you have to be ready for an expansion. It's like yesterday, this woman said to me, I'm wearing shoes that are too big and I have to grow into them. And that's kind of what it's like. Like, your heart is already there. Your heart is like, you're going to do this thing. And like, even for writing books, for me, it's always been, I'm going to write books. I'm going to be an author. But I'd sit down and I'd go, I can't bare my soul to the world. I'm too scared. And so it was like, well, you're going to do it. Okay, I'll do it one day, but I'm not, it's like, you're going to, and you can start to move towards it. You don't always have to jump off cliffs like I have, which, can make it a really scary way to go.
Yes.
But it's also worked for me, because I had to, I always had to say to my soul, okay, we're doing it. Okay, I hear you. We're doing it.
What's the title of your book?
The Wild in Us.
The Wild in Us. Great. What would you recommend or suggest someone who would like to change career or venture into horse therapy, but is scared to make that first step? How could he or she start? What would you say, having been there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to acknowledge that your heart is saying that, and say, okay, yes, we're doing this. That to me is a big, important part, instead of just going, yeah, whatever, I got to do the safe thing. Yeah, I got to do the same thing. I would, bring it into the forefront and say, okay, we're doing this thing. Maybe we can't leave our job because we might lose our house or whatever, but I would promise that we were doing this thing. And then I would start to do actions towards it, like find a mentor, right? Spend time with somebody. And I have newly adult daughter who I tell, and a son who's almost an adult, and say, find people who are doing the work and spend time so you see what that job is actually like. Because it might be very romantic. It might be a romantic idea to think, oh, I'm going to love this horse job or whatever it is. And then you get there and you're like, forget it. It's like, there's no way. I don't want to pick poo all day or half the day. And
that is so true what you're saying. Yes, we fantasize about a job thinking that will be the job of our life and of our passions. And then it's so not as glamorous as one thinks. How did you find your mentor? How did you look for a mentor?
Well, like happens, the universe just said, here's your person.
Okay.
I was again, during that time with my daughter, I was looking for more help for her. And actually we got this dog that's sitting with me. His name is Zen, and he's a wiener dog, whatever they're, a dachshund. And we were having difficulties with him because he was young and he was scared. And so I reached out, and I just happened to be I was looking for somebody, and I happened to be having this conversation with a friend who called me and wanted to talk to me about yoga. And so I was talking to her, and then she just mentioned this woman with this medicine horse farm, and that she did animal communication. And I just called her up, and I can't remember I'm pretty sure I booked for my daughter, and of course I had to be involved because I wanted to see how it all worked. And then I also booked for our dog, and we just, and the rest is history. I just signed up with her for the mentorship.
Thirza, thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure that you've inspired quite a few people. And I really hope that we'll have another chat one day. Maybe you will have expanded your profession and your farm into other even more adventurous activities. And I really wish you all the best.